The joint was quiet, but it switched to full-blown silence as the detectives crossed the room. White was the first to speak. "Relax a little, O'Brien. I'm not going to invite you to dance." "Sergeant Dominic White, Detective Squad. I just need to ask you a few questions." O'Brien stayed in his crouch, gripping the handle of the mug a little more tightly. "White, that sounds like an English name. I don't like the English, and I don't like the police. You want to question me? Go and get an arrest warrant. Otherwise, I'm staying here and getting on with my drink." White chuckled. Twice in one day someone had taken objection to his name. And there was I thinking a public-spirited man like yourself would be only too happy to help me with my inquiries. I can do this the hard way if you want, O'Brien. And I'm not a fan of paperwork. Just from those grazed knuckles you got there, I could arrest you right now on suspicion of assault. But it's a bigger crime I'm investigating. I'm hunting a murderer, and I don't have time for your attitude. Something in the words triggered O'Brien, for he slipped from his stool ready to swing his mug of beer. Before he could plant his front foot to throw it, White had drawn a revolver and pointed it at his stomach. "Sit down, O'Brien, before I shoot you in self-defense." The prizefighter paused. "You think I won't? Try me." O'Brien remained standing but lowered his mug. "Well, isn't it just like a cop not to fight fair? Check your back, detective. Looks like you've upset my friend." Moving around slowly, White could see a figure sitting in a booth. The man was pointing a pistol at the three policemen. He was thin, with a face as white as marble and cold-looking like a corpse. His narrow black eyebrows and slit of a mouth accentuated the icy meanness of the man. His blue eyes were devoid of any warmth, like two frozen lakes set into the hard landscape of his face, and they studied the cops like an alligator sorting out which chunk of meat to take first. He looked more like a killer than any man White had ever seen. His voice, when he spoke after enjoying the deathly silence for a moment, had an Irish brogue, but was cold like the wind that whipped in off the sea, each word stinging saltily as it left his lips. "Looks like we have ourselves a stalemate, gentlemen. There will be no arrests and no questioning. No one here had a hand in any murder." White had turned to face the man. Both guns were still raised. "Who might you be?" he asked, hiding the chill he felt. The detective had had guns pointed at him before. It was an occupational hazard, but this man exuded a dark and powerful sense of death. Looking at him gave White the same feeling as staring at a graveyard on a winter's day. The man smiled through those thin, closed lips. "Who I am is of no concern to you, Sergeant. I have my own arrangement with the NYPD that goes a lot higher than you. Best you be on your way now." White bristled. Despite the ice in his blood the presence of the man had introduced, he'd never been one for backing down. "No one bought me, and you won't have protection from shooting an officer of the law, so I'm going to take those men in. And if you can use your influence later, okay." "I don't have to kill you, just teach you a lesson," the figure said coolly and steadily. "I can shoot you and testify it was a total accident. I thought you were a gangster holding the place up. Juries can be bought so easily these days. Do you leave now, or do I show you how quick I am on the trigger?" Before White could decide what to do, a voice from behind the figure answered. "He's going, Eugene." From the booth behind the man with the pistol, Lieutenant O'Malley stood up. He was unarmed, but apparently unfazed by that. O'Malley was White's boss and mentor. He was neither tall nor especially broad, but there was a presence about him that could not be ignored, an energy in his eyes and a power in his large hands, a robustness to his stomach that would have been called a paunch on any other man. He stood stock still, legs planted slightly apart, staring unblinkingly into the eyes of each gunman in turn. "Gentlemen, put your guns away. It's bad for the takings at the bar. Mr. O'Brien, and Mr. Nevin will present themselves at the police station at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning to help us with our inquiries. That agreed, we shall take our leave." He said all this in a low and reasonable voice, but with an edge to it that couldn't be mistaken for anything other than a command. Eugene kept the pistol where it was, but had turned to face the lieutenant. "What if they, or I, choose not to comply?" O'Malley crossed his arms and smiled the coldest smile Wyatt had ever seen from him. "Now, Eugene, I'm being friendly. I don't have to be. In fact, I can be the meanest son of a bitch in the whole of the NYPD if I want to, and you know that. They'll comply. Put that gun away. I don't like you pointing it at my boy." "Your boy?" Eugene checked, something less confident flickering across his cold face momentarily. "You heard right," the lieutenant curtly affirmed. Eugene slowly holstered his weapon, and O'Malley gestured for White to do likewise. When the tension had been brought down a level, the lieutenant strolled over to the bar and stood between Nevin and O'Brien. "Bartender, a Bushmills before I go. Eugene will pick up the tab." The drink was poured, and O'Malley took it in one draught. Turning to the two Irishmen, he reminded them, 9 o'clock. And don't be late. I have a very busy day tomorrow. If I'm kept waiting, it can make me extremely cranky. You go ask Eugene over there what I'm like when my mood turns sour. 9 o'clock. With that, he ushered the three detectives out of the bar to safety.